Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nache Snow. You can find me over at nachesnow.com. That's N as in Nancy, ACHESNOW.com. You can head on over there, sign up for the newsletter. You can check out the resource pages to include my new page, The Bookshelf, which will give you plenty of books to choose from for success, business, art, cookbooks, journals, you name it. All right, so be sure to just head on over there for all kind of free resources and goodies, okay? Thank you. And also, I want to say thank you to everyone who supported the podcast so far because we're at the 6-month mark. I'm on my 26th episode, started in January. And I just want to say thank you to those of you who've been there from the beginning, like providing me feedback, suggesting guests, listening, rating the podcast. Like, I really do appreciate everything you've done. And for those of you guys who are just tuning in, if this is your first episode, thank you and welcome. Glad to have you. So just wanted to just at least make sure you guys knew that I really appreciated you. Okay? So today's guest is Tiko Davis. She is a business coach for soulpreneurs. I just think her story is so interesting. She actually was a civil engineer for 8 years before going into coaching. And so she's now a business coach. So she just kind of talks a little bit about how she made that transition and kind of some of the pivots that she's made along the way. And then she also talks to us about work-life balance because she says like that first year, she was like literally working herself sick. And so she really needed to take a step back and figure out how to take better care of herself. And she has this great quote in here where she says, self-care is not something that you earn, it's something that you deserve. And I am a true believer in that. But I do think for some reason we feel like we can't take care of ourselves unless we do all the other things. Like we put everything and everyone before us. And no, like we deserve to be taken care of too. So I thought that was a very powerful quote. And then she just talks a little bit about what is business coaching and how she's helping businesses put systems and processes in place, which is very interesting too. And then we end up in the episode, interesting enough, like talking about like self-care again, but some things that she specifically did or changes she made in her life in order to better take care of herself. So I think you guys will really love it. We do mention a few things in here, but you can find the links to everything that we mention at nachesnow.com/26. And, everything is set up for you so you don't have to take notes or anything because I also have the show notes over there. All right, so let's get started. Let's hear what Tiko has to say. Let's go. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome Tiko Davis to this show. Welcome, Tiko.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
No, I'm really excited to have you on. But before we even talk about like your business coaching like program, I just want to take the listeners back a little bit. Can you tell us just a little bit about you and your background?
Sure. So I originally was an engineer for about 8 years. So I was in civil engineering. And about midway through, I realized that I was not happy. I wasn't feeling fulfilled by the work that I was doing. And I really felt like there was a higher calling on my life. And so I really wanted to figure out what that was. And I hired a coach to help me to figure out what my life purpose was and what I really wanted to do. And it was through working with her that I really fell in love with coaching. So I eventually became certified as a life coach. And so I started my business in 2013. And my first year, I was helping other women to do the same thing that I did, which was to find their life purpose and develop faith in themselves to really go after their dreams. And I loved it. I knew I had made the right decision. I loved all of my clients. I felt like I was making a difference. And about a year into it, I started having other newbie coaches come to me and say, "Hey, I got my certification, but I have no idea how to set up my business or how to run my business. Can you help me?" And I was like, okay, and so I started helping people on the side. I wasn't really promoting it,
Mm.
but I realized that I really loved it and I was really good at it. Especially with my engineering background, I think a certain way. And so I'm really good at helping people put structure and systems and processes in place to really run their businesses in an efficient and sustainable way. So I made the transition over to business coaching, and that brings me to where I am today. So I
Mm.
love helping other entrepreneurs, especially those that feel like spiritually called to do what they're doing. So it might not be a spiritual business per se, but their business is their passion. And I
Mm.
love helping them to work smarter and not harder so they can really get their gifts out into the world.
So many questions. So, when you made that switch from civil engineer to a coach, how did that look? Did like once you got your license, were you coaching and still working as an engineer at the same time, or did you just say like, nope, I'm just going to give this my full attention?
My intention was to stay at my job for at least a year while I built my business,
Mm.
but I got laid off.
Oh.
And it was so crazy because it was like right as I was getting the business set up, I got laid off. And it felt like divine timing.
Mm.
So I just went ahead and just started my business full time. It was very hard in the beginning. I had no idea what I was doing business wise. But yeah, I started off full time, but it was really because I got laid off and I had that opportunity to do it. And
Mhm.
that's why I did it. But that was not my intention at all.
And so, how did that first year look? Because I feel like some of our listeners are like just starting some type of business. So, what were the things that you needed to do now that this was going to be the money that you were bringing in to like really help pay bills and eat, right?
Right.
So,
I had some clients that first year, but I was not making enough money to sustain myself by any means. So I
mm,
was really leaning on my savings a lot. And
mm.
so that is really what sustained me that first year. Would I recommend that other people do that? No. I wouldn't. I don't regret it, but I don't necessarily tell people, yeah, just take out all of your retirement and just live on that. Like I don't recommend it, but that was what my first year looked like. It was very stressful,
Mm,
very overwhelming. I was very frustrated. I had no idea what I was doing. I did, invest in a lot of coaching because I knew
mm-hmm,
I needed the help. I did not know anything about running a business.
mm,
Everybody in my family, I did have an aunt that was a business owner, but everybody in my immediate family works in corporate America, so I had no examples. I didn't really have any mentors to talk to. So I literally was learning as I was going, and it was
mm,
it was very hard, and I was working 24/7.
mm,
And I literally made myself sick because
mm,
of how much I was putting into the business and I was not taking care of myself, which is another thing that I'm very passionate about is making sure that entrepreneurs create a healthy work-life balance
mm,
because we keep hearing like, you got to hustle and you got to be team no sleep. And I don't agree with that. I don't. You
mhm.
can do that and then you can build the business and then not be around to enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
you have to take care of yourself and while you're building it. So,
I think I saw something on Facebook and it was saying like it was telling the story about how you were kind of like burning yourself out or
mhm.
yeah. And so my question to you is like so how did you eventually find that balance? Because I think at first, right, it's kind of scary. You're like, I've got to give it my off. I get 3 hours of sleep a night. I just have to do what I have to
Mhm.
do. But how did you eventually find that balance, and what does that balance look like? Because I think people hear that word a lot, like that work
Hmm.
life balance, but they just don't even know where to begin or
Yeah.
know how to start. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So there are two things that I would say I would recommend for someone in creating balance. Number one is being honest about what it is that you need and giving yourself that and putting yourself first. And so if that means that you need 8 hours of sleep, then you need to get 8 hours of sleep. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do not tell people to skimp on sleep because it affects everything. You know, if you're not getting, no, seriously, like if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to be as creative. You're not going to be able to be as innovative. You're not going to be your best to be able to put, to do your best in your business. You're going to end up working more because
Mm-hmm.
when you're tired, you think about it. Every time I'm tired, it takes me so much longer to get something done than when I have had a full night's sleep. So then it
Mm-hmm.
only makes sense to just get a full night's sleep every night so that you can be your best. And then, there are times where, things do come up. You might have a deadline or whatever, and you might, get less. But then that means that, later on in the week, you need to make up for that. It's not
Right.
something that you want to continuously do over and over again. So number one is figuring out what are the things that you need. Do you need to change your diet? Do you need to drink more water? Do you need to exercise? What are the things that you need to feel your best to take care of yourself? Does it mean once a week for at least 4 hours you go do something for yourself? Just really figuring out what is it that I need to be my best and giving yourself permission to have it. I always say that self-care is not something that you earn.
Mm.
It's something you deserve. And a lot of times people say, well, I'll do that for myself once I get to this point. But you don't know how long it's going to take your business to get to where you want it to be. You just don't.
Mm-hmm.
If it takes 5 years, are you going to treat yourself this way for 5 years? Are you going to make it if you treat yourself like this for 5 years? So that's number one. And then number two, really being honest with yourself about how you deal with stress. So some people, they're motivated by taking, huge risks. Like I've known some people where it's like, yeah, I quit my job and then I just jumped in, full time, and that motivated me to get my business to where it needed to be. Some people are like that, but other people, that will cause so much like
Right.
craziness.
Like,
Like, and I'm one of those people. I don't feel comfortable taking. I like taking risks, but not like crazy risks like that. So when I
mm-hmm.
did not have any money coming in, that literally was wearing away at me. So if it means that you have to go get a part-time job, or or even maybe a full-time job while you're building on the side, do what you need to do. It's just like when you're investing. When you go to set up your 401k, they have three different kinds of investments. They have and I might be saying this wrong, but there's like the moderate risk, then there's the stocks that are high risk. So there's low, medium, and high, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be honest with yourself about how you feel about money. So if you're
Yeah.
somebody that's gonna, fall apart because you lost a whole bunch of money overnight, then you might not want to put a whole lot of money into the high risk stocks. You might just put just a little bit, you know what I'm saying, and diversify your portfolio. So you have to be honest with yourself. And if you're the type of
Mm-hmm.
person where you're gonna fall apart, you know what I'm saying? If you can't pay your rent, if you can't
Yeah.
pay your rent this month, then go get it's okay. I think I did not give myself permission to go and get a part-time job right away because I felt
Mm.
like in some way I was turning my back on my dreams or my passion, or I felt like that meant that I didn't believe in myself. And that's not
Mm-hmm.
true. So I did eventually go and get a part-time job to help bring money in so that I could focus on myself and building my business without going into desperation. So
Mm.
those are two things that I would suggest.
Oh, those are great. And then I know too, and I'll make sure to include a link in the show notes. You have like this free guide on 10 ways to get an extra hour in your day. So
Yeah.
could you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the ebook is really good. It gives you 10 tips to manage your time better and also to help you to avoid the distractions that we all come up against, especially with email and social media. Our phones can go off literally every minute, all day long. And if we are responding to those notifications every time they come in, you can't get anything done like that. So I do include some tips in there on how to handle email and social media in a way that does not get in the way of you being productive. And then I also give some tips on systems and processes that you can put in place to kind of start bringing some automation to your business. Also helping you in setting boundaries with your clients. So yeah, those are all really important. And I think that just by putting those 10 tips in place, you will probably open up more than an hour in your day, surprisingly, because putting out fires takes up a lot of time in your day. So taking control, taking that power back is what the ebook is all about.
And then just to get back to like your business coaching. So I know you were saying like you were kind of initially helping people find their life purpose, but now you're, and correct me if I'm wrong, like mainly focusing on people that are coaches and they're trying to get started. Are you still just focusing on that? Is it like a combination of business coaches and people still trying to find their life purpose? And kind of what does your coaching, I guess, all involve?
I mostly work with those that have service-based businesses. So a lot of them are coaches, but others, I've worked with like interior designers. I've worked with someone that is a professor. Like it varies. A massage therapist, anybody that's offering a service of some kind. I help them in, up leveling their business. But I still do have some women and some men that will come to me that are in the stage of trying to find what their life purpose is and are wanting to start a business. They have so many different ideas. A lot of my clients are multi-passionate, creative people, and they need support with really figuring out, okay, well, which one of these should I pick? And which direction should I go in, and how do I get started? So I do still have some clients that are in that stage, but most of my clients are already business owners and have already gotten started. But they're very creative, but when it comes to the administrative and organizational side of their business, it's not really their strong suit.
And just speaking of that, like, are there any tips that you can give people that aren't quite sure which direction they can go? So there might be multi-passionate people, they have a billion different ideas and things they want to do, and they just don't know where to get started.
I always suggest to just pick one and just go for it. Just pick one. And don't be worried about picking the wrong thing, because when you pick one and you start moving forward, you will know whether it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. And so I just say, just give it time and give it a certain length of time. And because a lot of times people want to start everything at one time. And I say, I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, you can do that, but I don't think it's a good idea because you're really going to be diluting your efforts. And it's really hard. And one thing is going to have to be the main thing, so everything's not going to be able to be the main business. So you might start more than one thing, but one thing's going to be the main thing and one thing is going to be the side thing. And you have to be prepared again to be all over the place because now you're running more than one thing. So I always subscribe to the keep it simple strategy. And so I always say, pick one, do that, get that to where you want it to be, and then add the next thing later. And I always tell my clients, when you get ideas, just write them down. It doesn't mean that you have to do it right now, because then you're always, going after the shiny object, shiny object syndrome, and then you're all over the place. So I like to encourage my clients to stay focused and keep it simple and focus on one thing at a time.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah, it's like you can have it all, but not all at once.
Well, I always tell people that because sometimes people are like, Nache, you're like doing a million different things. But I'm like, but what you don't know is I started with one, then I
Mhm.
gradually added something else. And
Mhm.
then I have to determine like what's going to give and what's not going to give. And at any given time, really only one thing is my main focus, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And so it's not what people think where every day, all day, you're working on 3 or 5 different things,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Now for the business coaching for kind of the service-based businesses, can you talk like a little bit more about that? Because I think people hear like the word business coach, but they don't necessarily know what that means, like, or know if
Mhm.
their business is ready for that. Because they're like, well, I just started my business. Should I get one
Mhm.
now, or do I wait a year from now? And what what does business coaching kind of all entail? So I was wondering if you could just kind of shed a little bit of light on that.
Sure. So business coaches are each business coach you talk to specializes in something completely different. And so it's not just about getting a business coach, it's about figuring out what exactly do I need support with and which business coach can help me with that. Because there are some coaches that specialize in branding, some
Mm-hmm.
that specialize in marketing, some just specialize in Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to find that coach that specializes in that thing that you know you need in order to go to the next level. So with me, I specialize in helping you put systems and processes in place, which really means I help you in fine tuning your business operations. So, any process that you have, whether it's how you get clients or when you are signing up a new client, like what's the process that you take someone through to sign them up? Do you have to manually do everything, send them the contracts and then send them the invoice? Or do you have something that's automated that takes them through the steps to sign up as a client?
Mm.
Have you thought about what your customer experience is like? Do you have processes in place to support that customer experience that you want them to have? When you meet people, when you network, do you have a system in place that helps you to nurture those relationships? Or do you just take those business cards and throw them in your drawer? What do you have a process in place that helps you to follow up with prospects? What if a prospect says they don't want to work with you right now, but they want to work with you later? Do you have something in place that helps you to remember to follow up with that person? So
Mm-hmm.
these are all, it can get very intricate, all the different processes that help your business to grow. And, when you are creative, um, when you're offering a service, a lot of times you're spending so much time being of service that you don't have time to do all the extra stuff. So I come in to help you to put that structure in place. I come in to help you to think through what are the processes that you want to have in place to bring the clients in, to nurture them, to keep repeat customers. All of those things you have to think through. Well, what is the process I want to take people through to encourage them to want to sign up again so that you're not always going through feast and famine, because that's
Mm-hmm.
another thing a lot of entrepreneurs go through. They hustle to get the new clients, and then they get their clients, and then they're just servicing them, and then when those contracts are up, and it's like, oh my god, I need money again, and then they run out.
Right.
So you want to have something in place that's continuously all the time helping you to market and bring in new clients so that you're not going into desperation mode every few months.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I pretty much specialize in, but it just depends on, because other business coaches, they specifically focus on, helping you to get to 6 figures or helping you to get to 7 figures. So you have to be clear as to what it is that you really need. And I always suggest that you take your time and interview different business coaches to find the one that works for you. And don't be afraid to take your time in doing that. I know some coaches try to, push you to sign up right now, but you
Right.
want to make sure that it's a good fit. Because I've been in situations before where it wasn't a good fit, and I had signed a contract, and it was, too late to get out of it. So
Mm.
I always suggest that you do your due diligence in knowing what it is that you need and not being afraid to ask around, interview, and make an educated decision.
Mm. No, that's great advice.
Yeah.
And, and then I just wanted to ask you a question. I saw on one of your profiles that you belong to. So for the listeners out there, she's located in Atlanta, Georgia, and I saw that you belong to Fem City, Atlanta. So I wondered
Yeah.
if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Film City is a global organization that supports women professionals and entrepreneurs. And I'm a part of the Atlanta chapter here. And Yvonne Dodd is the president. I am the vice president. We meet at least once a month, and we put on workshops, and we have speakers come out. We do social activities to really support one another in um, promoting our businesses, providing resources, tools needed to take your business to the next level. It's really a great organization. I've been a part of the organization, I want to say, for 2 or 3 years now, and I've
Mm.
been on the board for the last year and a half. Great women, everyone's down to earth, very helpful and supportive, and you can find a chapter in most any major city.
Mm.
So I would encourage your listeners to find a chapter in their area and just check it out. It's really a great organization, and I love the opportunities that are available for us to be able to promote our businesses.
Mm.
And membership is very affordable. They have like a yearly option if you want to pay it, all up front. But then they also just started last year offering a monthly option as well, which makes it, even more affordable for, new business owners. I think it's about $18 a month.
Mm.
So it's really, really great. I love the organization, and I feel blessed to be a part of it.
Yeah, I see they have a chapter in DC, so I'm gonna have to check them out.
Yeah, you should. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, no, pretty cool. And then as we're like wrapping up here, before I go to my two wrap up questions, I also saw on your Twitter profile, which is probably related but totally unrelated to what we're talking about, but that you're a vegetarian and you say a wannabe yogi. And so so I wonder like do you think that kind of plays into the whole kind of like self-care thing where you're like trying to take care of like your body and which also kind of affects your mind and that goes to that whole like work-life balance, or is it just like you've always been a vegetarian and kind of done some form of exercise, or did you start to do that when you started to take better care of yourself?
I started to do that when I started taking better care of myself. So, like I mentioned earlier, I had developed a very serious health challenge, back in 2014.
Mm.
And I went to a naturopath, and she suggested, amongst other things, that I become vegan. And and so I did. So I became vegan. I was a vegan for like 2 years. I still eat vegan most of the time, like 90% of the time. But like maybe once a week or so, I might have some dairy or maybe some chicken or turkey or fish or something like that. So that's why I put vegetarian, because um I'm not a strict vegan. And I know, like,
Okay.
usually when people say vegan, that also includes like not wearing any leather. Um,
Right. Yeah.
and I'm
It's
not that
hardcore.
right. I'm not that hardcore, so I just put vegetarian. Um, and so with the yogi part, I love yoga. Like, I really love it. But I am not consistent. Like, I will do yoga like for like weeks, and then I just fall off. So that's why I
Mm.
say wanna be yogi, because in my heart of hearts, I would love to be one of those girls that you see on Instagram that does all those like amazing poses. But that is just not, I'm just not there yet. So I still am striving to be more consistent with my yoga practice. I think I would do better, and this is probably something I will probably do this summer. I would do better maybe if I was going to a yoga class regularly instead of doing it on my own. Because I do like,
Mm.
I do enjoy being a part of a class. But yeah, so that's where that came from, because I'm not consistent, and I feel like I'm always starting back from zero. Like, I've always wanted to be like super flexible and strong, And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm just not there yet. But yes, that is part of me creating that self-love, that self-care for myself. I do feel better when I eat like a plant-based diet. But at the same time, I really enjoy occasionally. Like I'm surprised because I used to be a person that loved chicken, and I was like, I can never live without chicken. So I don't never crave. I never really crave, chicken or meat, I should say. But occasionally I will treat myself, and occasionally I'll have like some salmon, or I might go to Chick-fil-A. You know what I'm saying? And so that's part of me allowing myself to have the things that I desire, but in
Mm-hmm.
a moderated way, and
Mm-hmm.
yoga, I love it for its physical benefits, but I also love it because it gives me a chance to really meditate and go within. So I do meditate every day, even if I don't do my yoga.
Mm.
But I love the combination of spirituality and physical, taking care of yourself physically. I love that mixture together, and it just feels really good. So those two things do play a huge part in my self-care and
Mm.
helping me to stay balanced.
No, that's great. I think it's great advice. So I've been thinking about yoga for a while. I'm like, I just need to go to a class. I just told a friend, I'm like, next time you go, I'm gonna go with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would love it. I started out doing Ashtanga yoga, and it's kind of,
Mm.
oh, you're in DC. Oh my God.
Yeah.
There are a ton, well, not a ton, but there are quite a few really good Ashtanga yoga
Mm.
studios there.
Okay.
But any, try them out and see which one you like. There are some really good yoga studios. 'Cause I lived in DC for about 9 months, or the
Mm.
DC area, I should say. And
Mm-hmm.
I cannot remember. I'll have to look it up later and send it to you. But there was one particular studio that I went to, and there was a young lady that studied under is he the founder of Ashtanga Yoga? And so she has her own studio in DC, and I was going there, and it was great. I loved it. So you're so
Oh
lucky that you're
yeah.
in DC and you have such great yoga studios there. So yeah, try them out and see what you like, because there's so many different kinds. There's Ashtanga, there's Hatha, there's Vinyasa, there's
Oh
Bikram. There's all different kinds. You just have to find the one that you like.
yeah. And how
Yeah.
do you spell that? Is it a Shonda?
Oh, it's Ashtanga.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll definitely look that up.
Yeah. And what I liked about it was that you do the same poses, so there's like a whole series of poses that you have to learn. And,
Mm.
they get more and more advanced as you go, but it's always the
Mm-hmm.
same. So it makes it easy for you to do it on your own when you're at home, between going to the studio. So I like that because it was very intimidating doing yoga on my own, because I was like, I don't know what to do. So it gave me like, okay, do this first, do that next. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I
Right.
liked it. And it's also very strength building. And you'll see when
Mm.
you look into it. So it helps you to tone and, get strong, and yeah, I love
It's
it.
like good for the back, just everything, right? Yeah.
Everything. It's
Yeah.
really a full body workout without being because I don't like very intense cardio. I've always been very thin, so I
Mm.
try
Hmm.
not to do anything that's like super intense.
Right.
Um, but it still gets the heart rate going. So it gives you a nice low impact workout, and it includes, strength and flexibility and breath work and all of that. It's great.
Mm. No, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. So, a question I ask each guest is, have you found your passion? It could be related or unrelated to what you do. If so, what is your passion? And if not, what are you doing to find your passion?
Great question. I feel I am a multi-passionate person. And I do feel that with my business, I am living one of my passions, which is to support. I love supporting other light workers, and I consider anyone that is doing anything positive in the world a light worker. And to know that I'm helping you to amplify your message, I'm helping you to reach more people and spread the light throughout the world. Like it just makes me feel so good to know that in a small way, am helping so many other people. So through helping this one person, I'm helping so many other people. So I love that. I'm also passionate about music. And I don't talk about it often.
Now, do you sing?
Yes, I am a singer. I also play
Oh,
the piano.
oh, wow.
I grew up, I was classically trained, and I was in, choirs, and I was a part of Soul Children of Chicago. And I kind of have, not want to say left it behind. I'm not active in my music, and so that is something that I do want to return to. I miss it. I do sing all the time, just not just not out in public. Um, and I do want to get back into that because it's something that does bring me joy. And that is something I've always motivated my clients to do was, yes, you are passionate about your business, but you also want to make sure that you are involved in things that feed you. When you do things that bring you joy, that's what's feeding you.
Yes.
And so I need to follow my own advice and get back into it. And it's funny because lately I've been having these opportunities come to me out of like nowhere. And so I know that it's, my spirit's own way of like saying, okay, it's time to come back.
And say
So,
yes, right?
yeah, and get back into it, So I'm just trying to find a way to get back into it in a way that that will feel good. I think the reason I had kind of come away from it was because at one point I was pursuing a music career, and it was really hard and it wasn't fun for me anymore. And so I promised myself that whenever I do return to it, I want to do it in a way that's fun and feels good and doesn't feel like, because it can get to a place when you're a creative, it's very hard to put your creativity out there because you're opening yourself, making yourself vulnerable to criticism. And that was really hard for me, being open to criticism, and that made me feel unsafe to put my gift out there. So when I do get back into it, I want to get back into it in a way that feels good, that's fun, and where it's not about what other people think or what other people have to say. It's just, this is something I want to create, and this is something I want to do, So I will get back to it. Yeah.
And what is one thing you can't live without? It could be anything, like product, person, like clothes, like it could be anything.
First thing that came to my mind was my lip balm. I can't go anywhere without lip balm. I swear to you. Like, I cannot go anywhere without it. But other than that, I would say I'm really big on meditation. And even when I'm not consistent with it, I can tell it's like a huge difference. So I know that it's something I cannot live without. I will go crazy if I don't take the time to quiet my mind. And meditation is not always just, sitting cross-legged, it's not,
Right.
it could just be taking a quiet walk, it could be journaling. It can be so many different things. And so that is something that I love and really helps me to stay grounded and clear. And yeah, I can't live without that.
Oh,
and my lip balm.
And the lip balm. And the lip balm. And please tell the listeners where they can find you, your website, and your social media handles.
Sure. You can visit my website at CoachTiko.com. That's CoachTiko.com. And I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My handle is Coach Tiko on all of them. So if you just type that in, you'll be able to find me on all three of those platforms.
Well, thank you. This has really been a pleasure. I appreciate you coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I just love stories
where people have found like their calling and they're now doing, be it their own business or working for somebody else, but where they're actually doing work that they really enjoy. I feel like this week's episode 26, you have somebody who has their own business and loves it. And then last week's episode, we have, someone who has more of a traditional job of sorts. It has like a little bit more flexibility. It's physical therapy, but she loved her job too. So it's like there's no right or wrong path. You just really have to figure out like what makes you happy and then choose a career that goes with your lifestyle. But anyway, I just love these type of stories, and so I'm just glad that she was able to discover like her passion and really go for it. And really, you guys, when it comes to that work-life balance, I think she gave some great tips, from, getting sleep, being honest with yourself, really trying to look at like how you deal with stress, like really think about all that stuff, and she talks about like yoga and how she became a vegetarian. But I think when it comes to ourselves, we really need to do we really need to take a hard look at ourselves and really do some self-reflection and figure out like what changes we need to make to our lives in order to better them, in order to try to find that balance, that work-life balance, but to also just really do that self-care that she was talking about. So if you haven't done it already, please just like take a second to take a look at you and your life and how you're doing and things and how you're living, and try to figure out if there's something you could be doing differently that could make your life even better. And I'm definitely going to check out that Fem City. I already emailed one of my partners in crime. So if we go to a chapter meeting in DC, I'll let you know how it is. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. Next week is the 4th of July, but I do plan to have an episode. I'm not going to skip that week. And she's great. It's Maya. She'll be talking about how to start a signature program, and we'll hear a little bit about her story. So definitely tune in next week for another amazing woman entrepreneur that is doing her thing. All right. If you haven't already, please rate the podcast, nachesnow.com/iTunes. It really helps. You guys just don't know. Just take a second. Just give me 5-10 minutes. Go online, just nachesnow.com/iTunes. Rate me 5 stars. Do it in your phone, on your podcast app. I mean, it really, really helps. And of course, sharing helps too. Sharing, commenting, you name it. All right. So thank you again for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.